Hi guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono, excuse me. It's July 4th, so this is a little special edition, the 244th birthday of our country.
Correct.
And I'm here with my partner Steve.
Welcome everybody. Hope everybody has a great July 4th, especially up here in the New Jersey, New York area. Sun is out.
Nice weather continues.
It's a perfect July 4th weather day.
Yep. So thanks for joining us. We wanted to make sure we didn't miss it, even though it's the holiday. So let's get right into it. And Steve and I were just talking before.
Yeah, let's get right into it. What's your over/under today for consumption of hot dogs, Jim?
I did have hot dog yesterday, so I'm going to say 3.
I'm going to go with 5 for me.
5. And that's before the burgers, because there's 2 of those.
Correct.
Oh,
I'm talking regular length. We're not talking footlongs here. But Joey Chestnut defends the title today.
That's right.
So
that's the over. I thought you were talking about us. You know?
Oh yes, definitely us. I mean, Joey, the over/under. I think he did 74 last year.
And listen,
I'm going to go with the under.
And actually, this is the first time you can actually bet on the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
You are correct.
So I wondered if that came up on Pick Dogs.
It did.
Okay.
I just wrapped the show with Pick Dogs, and the over/under I think was 74 hot dogs. So I went with the under.
I think I would go with the under as well. 74 is a lot of hot dogs.
It certainly is.
Kobayashi in there today?
I don't believe so.
Well, then there's his chief rival is gone.
Yeah, well, somebody beat. I don't know if it was Kobayashi who beat him like 3-4 years ago.
It was Kobayashi.
But I think Kobayashi's moved on to other foods.
Other gluttonous activities. Oh, exactly. I'm glad you brought it up. It is the Nathan's Hot Dog Championship, and I'm going with you on the under.
So. Yeah, okay.
But I look for Joey Chestnut to retain his title.
Oh, without question, he's the heavy favorite.
Secretary going, especially if Kobayashi's not in there.
This is Muhammad Ali in his prime.
Anyway, so but happy 4th of July. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. And our first segment is sponsored by Coriano Trucking.
Yes.
Of Haverstraw, New York. And actually, I'm going to be seeing Mr. Coriano, our sponsor, today.
Oh.
And looking forward to that. But thanks for your support, Guy.
Thank you, Guy. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th. So here, let's jump right into it because I'm getting a little bit more and more to the point of view that baseball may not happen. I mean, you know my opinion on the 60-game season. It's just a tournament, and I get that. But we're starting to see this stuff spread like wildfire across the country. It may not happen.
Right. I mean, in the news this morning, I woke up, 31 Major League Baseball players have tested positive because they've just started the quote-unquote testing because spring training's around the corner.
Right.
Is that a significant number? Not necessarily, but stuff is spreading. And I just feel like Jimmy Johnson in racing, right?
Yeah.
Got it recently.
And that's with no fans.
I think
and
another
all that kind of stuff.
tour player in golf got it. We talked about Djokovic getting it in tennis a couple weeks back.
Some golfers and so forth. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But the point is, too, with Major League Baseball, there's going to be players that are backing out, just like the NBA. And I'm not sure if it's going to snowball.
Mm-hmm.
But Adam Silver had a press conference this week, and they point blank asked him, about this potential threat. And, you know what a fan I am of this guy. He doesn't pull punches. He said, hey, it's out of my control. If it spreads,
we got to shut it down.
Not that he's going to shut it down. I mean, all it takes is the health commissioner in Orlando to put the kibosh on it.
Well, you mentioned the NBA because there's some coaches like Lionel Hollins and so forth. These guys are in their late 60s kind of thing.
Mid 60s.
So that's coming into play.
Yeah. So there's certain coaches that are not going to be able to go because the older you are, the more exposed you are. So Greg Popovich.
What's Pop? 65?
Yeah, he's in his 60s. Mike D'Antoni. and now Lionel Hollins. Also, Alvin Gentry is
Right.
subject to this. So I think it's going to go off. However, I'm with you. I'm not as confident as I was. And listen, August potentially has the greatest sports month ever.
Start of
Hockey.
college football.
Hockey, baseball, basketball, right? College football,
Yeah.
NFL training camps,
Right.
things of that nature. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's not put on the back burner.
Yeah.
'Cause it won't be good.
But I will say this, and I talked about it on the show a couple times. Steve, you live right around the corner. There's like 10 fields that we grew up playing baseball on.
Yep,
There was actually a Little League game going
that's right.
on one field. There was like 10 fields.
That's fine.
And I looked just to see, just piqued my curiosity.
What field?
9?
That's
Field
right.
9, right? No masks for the players or the coaches. And I'm just saying that's an observation. I said, I'm sure somebody, at least one person's got a mask on. Not one person.
Well, the
catcher.
The catcher
Of
had a
course.
mask on.
Hanging curveball.
Ew, it hit deep to left.
Gone. Very good.
Nah, but that's good.
Yeah.
I mentioned that about a week. I think on the last show that I drove by the fields and saw some kids practicing with their coaches. And,
Yeah. Point being is there's some activity going on.
it's something.
Mm-hmm.
It's something.
You're right.
George Costanza. Well, it's something.
So anyway, this is the kind of conversation we've been having for weeks. When is this coming back? And I'm just saying there's a possibility that looks like hockey's going to get underway. That I'm more confident is going to happen than anything. But
Yeah.
But if the NBA guys start coming, more and more and opting out and so forth, then that's going to be in jeopardy too.
Well, hockey has finalized the sites.
Yep.
There were a lot of cities and under consideration, but at the end of the day, it's all Canada. So you're gonna have Toronto in the east and
Vancouver,
Edmonton
Edmonton,
in
okay.
the western part of Canada, and they'll drop the puck.
Edmonton, Alberta.
Edmonton, Alberta.
Yeah, so hockey's going to happen. But certain things, like I said, still in jeopardy. Looking forward
And
to
also Canada related from baseball. Toronto wasn't 100% sure that they were going to be able to play at the Rogers Center, but they've been negotiating back and forth. I guess the travel restrictions and things like that. So they got an exemption, and so it looks like Toronto Blue Jays will play in
Okay.
Rogers Center.
All right. I don't know why that seems to be some COVID-free environment. I guess they're the
No,
lowest numbers or something. How do they settle on a place? I mean, COVID could spread anywhere, but good stuff. So listen, let's talk a little bit about the NFL because before, after our last show, marketing, from a notable free agent signing, Cam Newton. And you and I talked about this on the show. He was out there, and everyone's saying, why is nobody signing him? And ultimately, where does he sign? With the Patriots.
He did.
With the Patriots.
And people know my disdain for Cam Newton. However, and I also said I didn't think he was a fit in New England, and so I'll eat my medicine.
That's all right.
But the contract is only for $550,000. It's a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
But what sold me about this move earlier in the week was watching ESPN, and they showed a press conference of Bill Belichick. I want to say it was from like 2012, 13, something along those lines.
Right.
And they were game planning for Cam Newton.
Okay.
Right? And Bill Belichick was adamant about what a pain in the ass this guy is to game plan for, right? His running ability, his passing, his athleticism, this, that, and the other thing. So right then and there, I said to myself, well, he's had a chubby for him for quite some time. So we shall see. his act is not going to play in New England with the me Cam thing.
We know that.
And he
We
knows
know
that going in. And
Does he know that going in?
yeah, they don't sign him unless the law has been laid down.
Ask Antonio Brown, right?
Yeah. Ask any other ones that have been
Josh
Gordon and on and on.
Yep.
So does it make sense? Yes. And then the other thing is he going to beat out Jared Stidham? Of course he is.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
So this is, and I'm going to ask this because, Belichick, he wants to be sure he's got the right guy. So he's actually saying Stidham is not the guy.
Yeah,
right. That's
absolutely. I think that's self-evident.
Okay.
And then I talked to somebody the other day.
Well, he's going to end up being like a Matt Castle, and he's never thrown a pass, but he gets this, amazing contract kind of thing, right?
No, he's going to have to perform this year to get an extension. But
who's the starting quarterback for the Patriots in Game 1?
We're actually having this debate.
Do you think it's Cam Newton? You don't think he starts Stidham?
Death taxes and Cam Newton is starting for the Patriots.
Okay. I'm going to say Stidham starts, and after he throws his first interception, he's out, and then they'll put Newton in.
No. And then, what did I want to say? I talked to somebody recently, a couple days ago, about the signing. And this person's comment was, well, New England's now the favorites in the AFC East. I said, what, are you kidding me? I said the Buffalo Bills are ready to strike this year. And they
are the Buffalo Bills.
They're going to win the AFC East. That's my prediction. And I've said it before. Okay. And I think you agree, too.
I like what they're doing, but I also say it's the Buffalo Bills. I mean, and I know, Mike Burns and some of our listeners and Tom Kramer out in California, they worship the Bills. And they keep saying, Ryan, you were right about Rex Ryan. You were right about this and that. I know. And I'm pulling for the Bills because I like Sean McDermott. I like what he's done.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've been to a Bills games, many of them, and it's a great place great venue for football.
Right.
So you don't even give Miami. Tua is not going to be the starting quarterback, or is he? I wanted to ask you about that.
Oh yeah, not with Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick will start, I think, for at least 2, 3, 4 games, something like that. They'll ease to it and
have 2 standout games and then 2 do horrible.
But
games.
Listen, Miami is a couple years away. They had to tear it down and they're building it up. And I think this Brian Flores, obviously he's from the Belichick coaching tree, and I think
connection to us, right? St. Joe's.
But my point is, with the draft they had, they got 2.
They had a good draft.
So they're a couple of years away. But Miami, I think, will probably win. My guess would be
8.
Nah, I'd go 6 or 7. Yeah, but they're
not going to contend for the division between the Patriots and the Bills.
There's people that think they will. I'm not one of them. I just think they're a couple of years away. But I like what they're doing.
Wouldn't it be awesome for Bill Belichick to run the table?
No, it wouldn't.
Come on.
No.
I know everybody hates them. They're so successful. He's so good and he's so standoffish. That's why people don't like him.
I'm being kind of facetious,
right?
Meaning
it would be cool.
Well,
right? Solidify this guy. Not that he needs any solidification,
Right.
But
obviously, winning it without Brady obviously would be
and that's what he's
feather in the cap.
And that's what he stays up every night,
sure,
until this is over. That he could do it without Brady. That's his penchant, I guess. So,
sure.
Looking forward to it, but we wanted to make sure we mentioned that. So listen, before we move off the NFL, Steve, we have to talk about it. Let's get this elephant out of the room, right? We're going to change the name of the Washington Redskins and Cleveland Indians and possibly the Dallas Cowboys. No one's mentioned it yet, but that's got to come, right? They changed the name of the Texas Rangers, or they're considering that.
Right.
What do you think? It's just something I think we need to talk about because it's actually related to sports.
Oh, absolutely. It's been. Let's start with the Washington Redskins first. They've been in the news for 20 plus years. Actually, I've been doing some reading, when Jack Kent Cooke actually owned the team in the 80s, and right,
Yeah.
Jack Kent Cooke was on record, and he's like,
As long as I'm alive.
well, the Washington Redskins name will never change. And he said it's not offensive, number one. Number two, Dan Snyder takes over, 99, buys the team, says, ain't no chance we're changing the name.
Right.
But George Preston Marshall was the owner before, in the 50s, 60s, and was, let's be real, he didn't like black people, okay? So, and they were the last team to integrate. Bobby Mitchell, which we'll get to in a moment, was the first player for the Redskins. However, this movement, they've already targeted the sponsors for the Redskins. FedEx being the main one, who's spent over $200 million.
Names on the stadium for
the naming right.
Yeah.
FedEx within 24 hours
Yep.
has written a letter, but I think the lawyers went to Dan Snyder in the last 48 hours and said, you can't stop this freight train. So I think the Redskins now are trying to do the PR thing by where, right? So then in the news this morning, segueing to the Indians, the Indians knocked out Chief Wahoo, I don't know,
15 years ago? 10?
Nah, less than that. About 8 or 9 or 7.
right,
What?
I said 10.
Semantics.
I said
But the point is, you can still buy Chief Wahoo Indian paraphernalia at Progressive Field and online or whatever if you're a diehard. My point is, the Indians saw what's happening with the Redskins, so they're taking the PR front and saying, all right, it's time.
Okay.
So, we'll see.
Hey, listen, to me it doesn't matter what you call the team. It's the players on the field. And we get that. Right?
That's the... Do we?
I know.
We do, but my point is, do we? Because we're traditionalists. We're historians.
Exactly.
That type of thing. Is it really that offensive? Really? And the reason I'm throwing that out there is 5-6 years ago, the Redskins have actually gone to the Supreme Court to protect their name and patents and all this stuff. But my point about that was they polled 90% of like this, Cherokee Nation or whatever it is. 90% are like, we don't find it offensive.
Right.
90% of the people that it's supposed to be offensive to.
I get it.
So my only point is the debate about it.
And
it's going to happen.
And the reason that I brought it up is because if you do it with this, you have to do it with this, right? And what's Florida State? Isn't Florida State known for their,
the Seminoles.
the Seminoles, right? And the chant, and some people think that's offensive and so forth.
Well,
I'm just saying, and I brought it up because the Washington Redskins are, one of the prominent teams in the National Football League, right? Been horrible the past 20 years. It's an utter chaos. But from a traditional perspective, and you brought it up before, Bobby Mitchell, right? First black player to play for the Washington Redskins. They're retiring his number. He just got actually elected into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Right.
And he was a notable passing, unfortunately. It's a shame that he passed. And,
Yeah.
now they're honoring him, right? I hate when that happens. I'm just saying.
Right, that guys don't get recognized until after they're gone?
Yeah, meaning,
I agree.
right, it's a long time coming, and I wish before he perished that he had his moment.
And in a good parallel to that, because you remember I told you, college friend of mine, his father played, Jack Butler, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
And actually, he did finally get elected to the Hall of Fame before he passed away.
Right.
So that was that's the good story, but I agree with you. A lot of these guys, they're not around to recognize the contribution they made.
Right.
And I always said this, when I asked your father, I said to my father, and my father's considered a sports historian, certainly an expert in the National Football League. I said, Dad, do you know who a guy named Jack Butler was? And he says, of course I know who Jack Butler was. He was one of the best players in the NFL in the 50s,
Right.
for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's the feel-good story. But I wanted to bring it up about the name change. But listen, the Redskins always do the right thing, and honoring Bobby Mitchell was the right thing and so forth. But you're right. It may be a train that just can't be stopped.
No, it's going to happen.
So,
and again, like even in college, Las Vegas running Rebels, gone. They're changing the name.
I didn't hear that.
We talked last week about the Civil War in the Oregon State, in any sport.
Yep.
That's what they called it.
Yep.
Right. They're still playing, but
And listen, from a historical perspective, because this kind of ties back into what we talked about this morning. They put Hamilton out on the movie, right?
No,
and
it's
I
the
told you
play.
I went to see Ron Chernow, the author.
it's the play. It's the play.
Right.
It was live.
It's the play video.
No, it was a live production of
Exactly.
Hamilton.
But what a phenomenon! I told you I read the Hamilton book and saw the
That's
Ron
it,
Chernow, and
that's
I'm
it.
reading U.S. Grant.
Yeah.
And I will give you this. With the statues coming down, I said, there's no reason to take a Ulysses S. Grant statue down. He was that awesome. But I was reading some of the things. Andrew Johnson, after he took over for Lincoln,
Yeah.
this guy was a racist. and believe me, he should be expunged from historical. It was that bad.
Yeah.
But U.S. Grant, no.
No way.
Disagree.
Now, listen, one of our other favorite presidents, because, again, we're historians and we've read everything we can about Andrew Jackson.
I actually know what you're thinking right now, and I know you're going to say Theodore Roosevelt.
No, I'm a Theo fan. I'm talking Andrew Jackson, meaning, obviously, he's coming off the 20 for Miss Tubman.
Right.
I know they've delayed it now for a couple of years at least.
And his treatment of the Indians was horrible.
Well,
There's no question about it. The Trail of Tears.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Right.
So look up Trail of Tears and you'll see
Yep.
why Andrew Jackson is going to be targeted and statues of him are,
Right.
I guarantee are going to come down.
But I just saw the Ulysses S. Grant, and he's a big.
Oh yeah,
I'm a historian, and I've done a lot of reading, not just the Chernow book.
I know.
A lot of reading on it.
So it's really a case by case basis.
Exactly.
And you brought up Theodore Roosevelt. So his statue is gone now from in front of the Museum of Natural History. Theodore Roosevelt was a great, great American.
You better believe it.
And you can't crucify people for living in an era where it was what it was,
But his record for public service and things, it's just
War
unequal.
hero, all this.
Unequal.
It goes.
So
President
he's
of the
getting
United
mixed in with
States.
things, and I can see things. And again, you and I have talked about this because we do a lot of reading on history. We watch a lot of things. Some of this thing, taking the Theodore Roosevelt statue from outside the New York Public Library to me is crossing the line. It's gone a step beyond what's necessary. There are other things to focus on. That's my point.
Yep.
Anyway.
We could do a whole day on this.
Yep. Yeah, we could.
What else we got?
Well, listen, first and foremost, our next segment sponsored by Lynch Motors of Manchester, Connecticut.
That's right.
And I got a happy 4th of July from our sponsor, Michael Lynch, yesterday. He goes, we're listening to the show, driving up to Rhode Island, and he took a picture of a 25-ounce Bud can. He said, I stopped and bought one of these in your honor. So how about that for a sponsor? Huh?
I tell you, man, son. Woo.
I'm sure he's out on the boat in Narragansett Bay up in Point Judith.
Right.
And,
Sure.
But thanks
Thanks, Mike. Happy 4th.
for all that. So, Steve, listen, it's July 4th. Everyone wants to get to the barbecue, but we have some notable passings, and we want to talk about these because...
Yeah, I'm going to lead with Joe Bugle.
I know.
We were just talking about the Redskins, and, Joe Bugle was considered one of the top offensive line coaches in NFL history.
Agreed.
If not the top. I mean, so he
besides the Pittsburgh Steelers of the 70s, is it possible that his Washington Redskin Hogs were the two best offensive lines?
Yeah,
But we can't dismiss the Larry Little, Jim Leonard kind of thing.
Sure, I mean, that's a debate.
The Dolphins. Right?
It's a debate for another day.
Yeah.
But Joe Bugle died at 80. The originator of the Hogs, right?
And please bring this up because James Walsh is a big fan of us, and he sent the thing, and it clicked, and it was so funny when he referenced him as the patriarch of that offensive line.
Yep.
Boss Hogg.
With 2 G's, though.
Exactly. But the reason it was so funny, because I never once saw a Dukes of Hazzard episode.
Hey, that's funny. Either have I.
But yeah, when he said this and referenced Joe Bugle, it was perfect. And I said, I sent him an email because, he sent an email to sports at Mono and Mono, at gmail.com. And it was so funny. Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
So Bugle coached in the 80s, 2 Super Bowls. Again, the Hogs. And when he came up with the name, it was in conversation with Joe Gibbs.
Right.
He said, you just blurted out, Hogs, and it stuck. And obviously, is one of the most premier offensive lines.
And Joe Bugle didn't have, as much success, obviously, as a head coach.
Right. He did 4 years with the Arizona Cardinals.
And one with the Raiders.
Yeah, interim tag, I think, with them. But Joe Bugle, again, R.I.P.
Football guy. I mean,
Throw
right?
and throw.
And when he's on Joe Gibbs' staff, you know that he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So then next, we're going to go to the entertainment field. One of our all-time favorites.
Yes, sir.
Carl Reiner, 98 years old, passed away.
Yep.
And he lived a great life. Really one of the funniest. You can't say enough.
Creative minds.
You can't
generation.
say enough about how talented Carl Reiner was,
and what he contributed to television history.
Right? Movies, the whole thing. Carl Reiner, was a Mel Brooks guy, Sid Caesar, right? And just an absolute icon in Hollywood, and I don't particularly care for his son Rob. However,
I think his son Rob is a genius filmmaker.
Yes, I'm talking more on his political.
Whatever, but we don't get into that.
I get it, but I just wanted, I wanted to make that note.
Yep.
But Carl Reiner was universally loved. Again, I mean, we could be here for a day talking about it.
Exactly.
So
we could.
But R.I.P. Carl Reiner, you will be missed.
And I mentioned this to you, Steve, after the day he died, at 10 o'clock at night, there's old reruns of the Johnny Carson show.
Right.
And whatever was scheduled was kind of preempted because they ran an episode with Carl Reiner and Raquel Welch on it, and it was so funny. He wore his hairpiece, he hasn't had hair since the 30s, And he had his hairpiece, and it was Johnny Carson and Carl Reiner back and forth. How brilliant was that? Brilliant.
Right.
It was brilliant.
I'll be searching for that.
And I got to say this.
More so for the Raquel Welch.
And this may come as a surprise to some of our fans, but one of the most successful comedy shows was the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Absolutely.
Right? And just brilliant. And Mary Tyler Moore was up and coming, and I gotta say, of all of the television shows that we've seen, I'm not sure I've seen 2 full episodes of the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Oh, I have.
I've seen 1,000 snippets and half a show, but I'm not sure. But I know how brilliant it is now.
It's great.
But I can't say I was a religious
That's okay.
watcher.
But Carl Reiner created the show.
You bet.
So, R.I.P. Carl Reiner. We're huge fans, and you'll be missed.
And you watch what's going to happen. Mel Brooks is going to be right behind him, boy, because they like to hang out. Right? He's 94, I think. 94 or 95.
He's a baby.
Yeah, those guys were pals.
Next up, just yesterday, Hugh Downs.
Yep.
You know what? Hugh Downs is probably one of the most well-liked TV personalities and a great demeanor.
99.
99. You never heard a bad word about Hugh Downs. And actually, Hugh Downs, I believe, has the Guinness Book of World Records for being on TV longer than anybody, hour-wise, right? So he was on...
Oof, well, that's a quite an honor,
right?
Knocking out Cronkite and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but Hugh Downs worked till he was
Tom Brokaw.
Hugh Downs worked till his mid-80s, probably. Yeah. He's 99. We haven't seen him for 15, 14 years on air.
One of the original hosts of the Today Show.
That's correct. So it makes sense that. Yep. And then with Barbara Wawa, on 2020.
And that's how I used to find. That's when I first knew about Hugh Downs. He was the host of 2020, which was a phenomenal Friday night kind of intrigue, murder
magazine show. Yeah.
And I thought he was 80 back then. You know, he lived to 99. But you're right. That's quite a. You know, in that business, the news business, highly respected and so forth. And
Right.
hey, listen, he teamed up with Barbara Walters, who was the
You see.
right.
So
99.
99, right?
Yeah.
So R.I.P. Mr. Hugh Downs.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for the
July 4th special, right? But Steve also mentioned we have one more sponsor we want to make sure you...
absolutely. So
Shout out to-
Di Filippi's Bakery in Monticello, New York. We thank you for your sponsorship and
Yep.
have a great 4th.
Yep. But I also wanted to mention one of our other listeners, Corey Cole, your friend,
Yeah. Shout out.
had us over for the Belmont and just a beautiful estate, and it was just a wonderful evening, and that's what we want. That's the kind of connection
Go
we like,
ahead
you
and
know.
say what the highlight of the party was for you, Jim. Go ahead.
What? That I picked the winner of the Belmont, that I won the pool,
Well,
whatever.
It's
Blah,
credibility.
blah, blah.
Credibility for the show.
They've been doing pretty good in the Derby picks and Triple Crown races the past few years. But it was a wonderful day,
Yeah.
and we thank him very much. His family was
him
wonderful.
and his wife Nicole.
That's
It was a great day, and we finally met Sir Winston, the dog.
We did, and give the reference to why his name is Sir Winston. Because
Corey
from
last
last year's
year's
show.
Kentucky Derby, Sir Winston.
Cha-ching. You know?
Hence there, now there is a Sir Winston with Corey. But thank you, and we always appreciate you listening and your loyal support. Yeah.
So, all right, listen, guys, thanks for joining us, and get out to the barbecue, but wear a mask. And I gotta say, I'm a
How am I going to
proponent
eat
of it.
5 hot dogs with a mask?
Excuse me, and you walk down the street, eat 5 hot dogs, you put your mask back on, you go to the party.
Oh, okay. Is that
Right.
how it works?
And listen, you have a good time with Kevin Wilson, who's a loyal listener of the show, and he's a good guy and funny as hell.
That's
I'm
right.
sure you're going to have a great day. It's beautiful out. Get out there, but be safe.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll catch up to you next week.
Have a great 4th. Thank you.